All right, now, obviously, I want to continue working on my image here. I want to finish my composite that I'm working on here with you. And I want to show you a tool that I haven't shown you up until now. I've kind of been holding out on you here. And this kind of falls into the group of selection tools, although we didn't see this guy when we were talking about the selection tools. I wanted to show you this tool on this image because this is a great example of where you can make use of this tool. He's called the Quick Selection tool, by the way. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to go into more of a full screen-ish mode. So I'm going to head back up to the Arrange menu there on the application bar, and I'll choose the first item here, the Consolidate All. So now I'm back to this kind of a mode. And you might want to zoom in just a little bit on your image, something like this. And the Quick Selection tool that I'm referring to, what he'll do, he's actually extremely cool, is he'll create selections almost as if you are painting. So you can almost paint a selection, if that makes sense. So here's what I have in mind anyway. The photo of the statue that I took here was obviously taken on a very drab day. This is cloud cover or sky, and it's obviously very overcast. And the idea here is that I want to get rid of this background. I want to keep the statue, but I want to get rid of the background, and I want to be able to see the clouds showing through underneath. And maybe we'll manipulate our clouds a little bit and make some adjustments and things. But that's really what I'm after here. So here's what I'm going to do. Hidden underneath the magic wand tool, way over inside the toolbox, we have this fella here, our Quick Selection tool. So make sure you grab this guy. All right, now you'll notice right away that my cursor changes to a circle. Now this circle is, you can think of this as your brush size. That's the size of the area, the size of the painting area that I'll actually be creating here. Again, don't forget we're painting a selection here. Now, what I can do is from the options bar up at the top, I can choose my brush size. So I just drop down this menu here, and I can increase my brush size if I want by dragging the size slider to the right, or I can make him smaller by dragging him to the left, or you can type a value in there. Hardness and spacing and angle and roundness, I wouldn't really bother with those guys. You can mess with them a little bit, but not really what we're after. Really, it's more the size that we're after. So maybe I'll bring this guy up to, well, let's say around 75 pixels. I think should be just fine. Enter to lock in that change. And now you see my cursor's larger, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm simply going to click and drag on the left-hand side of my image, and you can see I'm literally painting marching ants. How awesome is that? And what's cool here is as I'm painting, the tool is smart enough to grab adjacent pixels that are also the same color. So you could almost think of this guy as kind of like the magic wand tool in that it's selecting based on color, but it's selecting adjacent pixels as well. It's grabbing everything. We're painting this selection in. In fact, I went, I think, just below his elbow there, and I grabbed the entire left-hand side. It's awesome stuff. So if you want to give that another run, by the way, just deselect, remember Command D or Control D, and give it another try. So again, here on the left-hand side, I'll click and drag, and I'll just start dragging down the left side of the image, and pretty quickly I'll have that entire left side selected, which is awesome. I'll continue across the top of the statue here, grabbing that area there. All right, now, next up, we've got the left side and we've got the top, but there's that spot underneath the wing there and this little gap of space between the staff and the statue's arm there. Let's zoom in here, Command plus or Control plus, zoom in nice and close. Now, I want to show you some tricks here. I want to get this space in here, right? So what I want to do is I want to reduce the size of my brush, but it's kind of a pain in the neck to have to go all the way back up to the options bar and then mess with my slider, right? So here's what I'm going to do instead, and here's some shortcuts that you'll want to try and remember. Whenever you're working on a tool inside Photoshop that is a brush tool, or it falls into the group of brush tools, for example, there's a clone stamp tool, and we have our quick selection tool here, and of course there's the brush tool itself, and there's a few others. What I can do is I can change the size of my brush just by using my open and close square bracket keys on my keyboard. So in other words, open square bracket, if I tap that, that's going to reduce the size of my brush. You can see there my cursor is shrinking down. Or the close square bracket key will increase my brush size. Two keystrokes there that you'll want to remember. So I'm going to shrink this guy way down, something like this, and then I'll click and drag a little bit in there. Actually, I got it on the first try there. There it is right there. You can get a little picky. You might want to zoom in even closer and try and get some of these smaller areas here. You can do that if you want. I think I'm going to leave mine pretty much as it is, though. I don't want to spend too much time on this. You, of course, can spend as much time as you like. All right, we have the piece underneath the wing, or between the wing and the shoulder. Just increase my brush size here a little bit. Drag in that area. Perfect. There's a tiny little gap of space below the right hand, right in there. You got to be careful and make sure you get all these tiny little spaces here. And there's one more space, if I recall, way down in the bottom right corner. Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out, see what we have here. That's looking pretty darn good, I think. All right, now, the next thing that I'm going to do, really simple here, is I'm simply going to hit the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of any pixels that fall inside my selection, of course, the marching ants, right? Now, what happens, and this is fantastic, is the clouds, of course, are behind my statue, so they now show through because there's nothing inside the selected area now. There's no pixels at all, so anything now below the statue is going to show through like the clouds, right? All right, I'm going to go ahead and deselect, Command D or Control D.